You're talking about the silencer there to sort of counter out for the Bane. If you're not careful on the Tiny and the Magnus, their combos are not instant either. I mean, it's hard to have too much downtime in between when you go in, but all you need is the time it takes for Giant to push his R key, and you could be stuck in the middle of a fight with no actual tools to take it.
Yeah, at least nowadays, with the way that offlaners build up their items, the Greaves Rush is already just kind of what's going to
Mm,
happen. So Magnus will eventually, and pretty soon, honestly, have a way to counter off the global silence, but it still could ruin your instant jump. It could still just kill Magnus if, let's say, he goes for a skewer play instead. It's where any amount of lockdown is now going to be pretty scary to play against, even though I think in both the Silencer and the Ember Spirit, pseudo answers, but this isn't your direct counter to what the Magnus wants to do. This isn't your instant Rubik Glyph. This isn't your instant Ancient Seal. So in that regard, kind of a dangerous situation. Now, Slark versus Timber, a matchup that in EU always goes real well for the Slark. In NA, though, depending on how farm that Timbersaw is, you still chunk through Slark. Eventually, Slark wins this matchup 100-0, but for the first 20 minutes or so of this game, Timbersaw eventually just bullies you out of the game with Chakram, and it's a pretty fine line that Fard SJ is gonna have to toe here, because all it takes is 1-2 deaths, suddenly the Timbersaw is 3 levels on you, and then Slark is effectively a jungling hero at that point.
right. And that's just never the situation we want to see. If the Slark ends up having to go into the jungle, ends up having to use the Dark Pact farm, just it never really works out. That's kind of a point of no return for the carry Slark, excuse me. So we'll see what Fart Studios can do in terms of giving him that space. We'll now see what they do in terms of a hero for I Annihilate that can maybe be a little bit more active. It felt like they had that kind of hero last time out with the Kunkka, someone who we know is capable of making some of those early rotations. It's just RCY was so much faster that he was on the defensive a lot sooner than I think he won.
Yeah, I think you could say, bad lane, bad game. Annihilate, who has been getting all of these respect bans against him,
Mm,
he certainly is a mid laner that deserves that respect, but you catch him in an off day, you catch him in an off position, and I think he certainly got caught off guard by what RCY brought to the table here. So giving him just a closer matchup, or even a more winning, advantageous matchup versus the Ember Spirit, it's where I think you could see himself even go for something like the Invoker, or simply you could say, okay, they don't have a lot of stuns. We have an Ember Spirit on the board. There's a Silencer. Do we just pick up maybe a Quap, maybe a Puck? Just any ranged hero that's going to lane versus that Ember Spirit is going to feel a lot more stable for him to go against. It's a situation that I think we should probably look for him a little bit more for Fart Studios, but it's also the beauty of having last pick here. They can do whatever they want. They've got the entire game out in front of them. It's why DogChamp have to ban so many heroes to just make sure this Ember Spirit gets off the ground.
right. Have to take their carry first here, although, I mean, if they pick up a hero with even the slightest bit of durability, then you've got a front line that's going to look pretty good, right? Your carry plus Timbersaw is going to be sort of hard to break through, so in that regard, they've given them... Ooh, okay. Given themselves a little bit of an advantage was what I was going to say. That feels honestly a little greedy, picking up the SF.
Yeah, and again, a hero that I think they go for mainly because of the carry bans and reacting to those, but they
Mhm.
also kind of put up a little bit of a middle finger here to Fart Studios, because now they say, okay, no matter what mid laner you play, well, if it's a good lane for SF, well, we send the SF mid. If it's a bad lane for SF, well, we're going to send the Ember. And they go for a counter pick for Fart Studios. So I'm really interested to see if Yuma just ends up taking the Ember here, because that's
Hold on.
why they pick the SF Ember, because they decide, okay, if you're going to give this Ember a horrible lane, well, we have a Shadow Fiend as well. I think, honestly, giving RCY the Shadow Fiend in this situation, seeing that there is that direct counter, why not? Go for it.
And it won't change the actual lane setup that we were talking about, ET, but do want to point out Jenkins has taken the tiny Newsham,
Mm.
grabbed the mag. So it is going to be a support Magnus, which maybe frees him up a little bit more to keep the Empower on to the Slark really throughout most of the game.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, RCY does take the Ember.
Hmm.
Again, still want to see where they end up actually walking lane-wise, or what they end up buying item-wise, because I still think that might be a mid lane that they want to avoid. But yeah, like you said, interested to see what Jenkins is going to do here, and even position-wise for them. If Newsham is just going to be the offlaner now, I can only imagine it's going to now be a 3 Tiny, but I think saying that we need a little bit more last hitting power in this lane, maybe if you're going to get a few more points up in the tree throw, you know, why not? Maybe that'll lane a little bit better versus Yuma, but is interesting. I think also comes to the idea that both the Magnus and the Bane have these super long CD ultimates. If we're going to have an offlaner, just make it so that way he can play with us. Just have an offlaner with maybe 15, 20 seconds on Avatos, can constantly make plays with the Blink Dagger. Certainly ups the tempo a lot for Fart Studios.
Mm-hmm. And then, of course, with Newsham on the mag, the silencers may be slightly less of a big deal, right? Because the mag is not a core, he's a support, so his RP is going to be a luxury, not a necessity, hopefully, in these fights. We'll see how it actually plays out, but that would be the hope if you're Fart Studios.
It would be the cherry on top in some of these team fights. And until then, he's an empower bot. I can only imagine that skill build wise, you know, maybe get a luxury point in the queue just because the shockwave repositioning is actually pretty useful and honestly impactful, but could certainly see him as well just getting points up in skewer and then points up in empower. And then as soon as the timber kicks the Slark out, well, 4 points in empower certainly makes BSJ farm just a little bit quicker.
Oh, that's very
Oh.
nice.
Game 2 getting underway. We do see Newsham making his way top with the immediate boots purchase, and got a couple of teammates along for the ride here, so might think about a wraparound. Jenkins has already put the point into the tree throw, so you won't have any further lockdown out of him, but depending on who they can catch here, they may not need it, although B9 is trying to make a break for it, but there's going to be the pounce. They get the leash down first. Shockwave pulls him back in. He's not going down all that quickly, though, and he may not go down at all. B9's able to walk away. Now, all of a sudden, Fart Studios have to pull back, but Sonic is so damn slow. He's not going to make it out. They get the root onto 2. They really want BSJ, though, and they will get him. The raises are there. They find first blood. They'll get a second in just a moment. Just a moment. Please stand by. There we go. RCY says, you know what? I'm taking it. Forget it.
I'm just getting better and better.
But that's 2 kills off the really top of the bat there for DogChamp. And off of a scenario, much like we talked about in the last game, where Fart Studios were the ones who were trying to be aggressive in the first place, ET.
Yeah, I just kind of got in their own heads a little bit, and I think the reason we get some shenanigans there is you certainly wanted the first blood on RCY, but, you know, it's okay. He still gets a kill. He's only 200 gold off of his bottle as long as he doesn't get every creep denied. It could be worse, but really, I think you're extremely happy. I think that was also a down payment on a bunch more mangoes for Yuma, you know, already replenishing the souls, because Yuma's right back at home. And oh my god, Sonic. Well, no more Bane.
That's a bit of an issue there. Had the Nightmare, didn't really do him a whole lot of good, and that's really not supposed to happen. That's just level 1 Whirling Death, and the Silencer's slow in DOT. That should not be enough for the kill, but the Bane's just a little bit too far forward, and he gets punished.
And when I say no Bane for a while, I mean no Bane for a while. He has to walk.
Oh, no.
After, yeah, TP respawning. It's an ugly state of affairs here for the first few waves. At least you're giving soul XP to Slark, you know, a very XP hungry carry who wants his level 6 early just to be able to sustain versus Timber. But still, you've basically forfeited your first 3 creep waves here against DogChamp. Very unfortunate.
I mean, look at this. Giant is in his face and doesn't really have to care about any sort of response, any rebuttal, because the Slark was alone, so not a fun time. Good time for Giant, though. He was able to get maybe 1 whole last hit in there, which I know I say that sarcastically, but that is the support life. You get 1 last hit in the lane, and you're like, hey, this is looking pretty good for me. Nightmare up, though, but this is the problem for Sonic, right? He got punished the last time because he was playing forward, but you can't afford to not play forward if you're the Bane, right?
You have to be in. CD.
Okay. Thanks for letting us know, Jenkins. Not a big deal.
See, I don't even know what kind of mind game he's level 1. They know he has tree grow. Nothing's on CD. I don't. maybe it just hovering over the all chat, because this lane is also not going too well right now. Just a little bit too much right-click damage split between the Treant and the SF to really get denies going for you, even though I still think both Tiny and Magnus have quite a good bit of base damage themselves, but it's where the threat of getting a double raised is always just kind of forcing them off these creep waves, and then anytime they get low, the leech seed comes through, and then Yuma's back to full HP. It's just a very difficult laning situation for Jenkins, even though he's doing his job, doing the best he can. Once he gets level 6, can't really get right-clicked out of lane anymore, but there's still just the threat of getting double, triple raised and eating at a good 500, 600 damage.
And that is going to be the downside, because the Mag is not exactly the greatest defensive hero. I suppose between Shockwave and Skewer, you know, maybe you move Yuma so that the raises are kind of off the mark on that front, but that's really not an easy play to make there, as Sonic's going to get picked off again. Meanwhile, mid, RCY dives well past the tower looking for his own kill, and the tips come out immediately afterwards. And LET, this is starting to look a whole of a hell lot like Game 1. 5 straight kills for DogChamp, 2k lead in 3.5 minutes, and Yuma, not really in that much trouble up top. He's able to walk away.
Yeah, just caught off guard by the 2 points up in the searing chain, and
this.
Oh,
It's going to be the slow. He needs one more punch. Jenkins, though, able to come in with the, okay, with the toss into the skewer. Thought for just a moment maybe Jenkins had overestimated his teammates' health, but the skewer was ready. Perfect timing from Newsham, and they get their first kill on the board, and a kill that they really desperately needed.
Yeah, something. Of course, a play made well behind any creep wave, so does mean that Yuma just gets to kind of take everything for himself, but again, it could be a lot worse. And pretty nicely, with Newsham already low, just gets to walk even further back, was already heading back to the base, so gets a kill on the way. You know, you'll take those. You'll definitely take those. And though, again, CS-wise, all of DogChamp is just taking over the board.
Yeah, that's not a problem that they're going to be able to find an immediate solution to on Fart Studios. Just got to try and tough it out. See if they can make up for it later, because the Empower will be there eventually. Right now, Newsham, not bothering, still kind of sitting in that laning stage, but it is going to come online soon, and that's one of their best tools to just try and catch up. In the meantime, though, middle lane, Annihilate's early death is not too bad. I mean, he's maybe half or 2/3 of a level. Okay, now it's bad. Now it gets very bad. Giant comes in, get a little bit of extra damage. RCY's got to manage the tower aggro, but he does exactly that, and well, everything that I was about to say kind of just goes out the window, and now Jenkins will fall up in the top lane as well. I don't think they continue the chase onto Newsham, but that's 2 cores taken down once again.
Yeah, and this is just striking a little bit too early, because now you give the solo lane over to Italiano. He's got a full creep wave. He's even trying to make a kill attempt onto Sonic here. And it's a little bit of a long kill, but will he get it before the Nightmare gets off? He's got 5 mana, and then, okay, looks like Sonic might be able to walk this one out. Still, though, it's just chaos. This is pre-level 6 as well. This is just Italiano working with bare bones here of the hero. But with 3 points up in Timber Chain as well, again, there's just not very much safety for Fartis J to actually play around. There's just so much damage he ends up eating anytime he goes into a trade.
At least he's keeping the last hit count up there. Gotta commend him for that. 30-1 is about as much as I think you reasonably could expect in this laning setup, but is Slark a hero who can take a good to okay lane and turn it into help for the other lanes? Because it doesn't really seem like that's often the case, and these other lanes are starting to struggle.
No, they certainly are. It's also where RCY is just literally paired up with the Silencer permanently. Giant is not left. He is still just being that guy, that super obnoxious guy. We're in a 2v1. And now, with the haste rune, well, he's got a safety net. Oh, needs one more.
Gets the jump. Sonic. I don't know if he wants to do this on RCY. Mana and cooldowns are coming back up. They're going to go for it. They get the root. They get the DOT. Giant running a little low himself, but doesn't matter. RCY comes in. Double kill for him. 4-0-2 start. Yuma, though, is going to get picked off. Once they realize, well, the Treant's out of lane and the Silencer's not moving from mid, they do manage to get that combo going, and it's a good kill, but at this point, Yuma's almost not even the primary target anymore. It's just RCY so huge on this Ember Spirit.
Yeah, and it's also a ticking time bomb. The Ember will eventually make a rotation if he sees it to that top lane. And we'll have to see where Yuma decides to use his TP. So yeah, if Yuma's TPing top, they're going to now spend resources to make sure that SF can live up there. But again, net worth-wise, he's still okay, even though he went down. And that was the first time they actually got that combo. Like you said, they got the Avatos into the skewer, which is exactly what they need. But also, Yuma is just going for the right-click build. He's got a really funny-looking skill build, and it kind of makes sense, but at the same time, it looks like he's just going to get a mom and then just start right-clicking things. So that older style of Shadow Fiend, as opposed to what we saw a lot of teams at, let's say, TI instead, where they were still playing for that laning presence majorly.
Well, I mean, if RCY is going to be hitting this pace, this tempo, then...
Oh, and again...
You can afford to go right-click. Annihilate, though, cannot afford this. He's going to get caught out. This duo... Let's call this what... This is bullying, ET. This is just... This is what you had all of your presentations on in high school. This is straight online bullying.
Yeah, he's just in a dual lane. You're literally getting dual laned mid. Sonic, he might be able to walk this one out, but if RCY decides to use the Remnant, doesn't even have to. Okay, it's just that simple. The Flame Guardless Ember Spirit, it's just this more points than chains. It just seems to catch everybody off guard. He's just a slayer. And you'll notice that RCY hasn't tried to make an attempt towards that bottom lane for a reason, because he knows that there's a Slark. He's just going to get out of my chains. You know, it doesn't really matter. But Taliana's holding his own perfectly fine. So now Fart Studios decide, well, okay, we're going to bring everybody towards top, maybe force a tower trade. But B9's Treant Protector. He's the best hero in the game at defending these towers, and RCY is still causing chaos. And now the lane swaps. Now Italiano's top, and Annihilate can just not catch a break.
Okay, able to drop the hammer there. That gets him a kill, but he immediately pays for it. Italiano gets one kill, picks up a second. Jenkins... Yeah. TPs himself out. Searing Chains weren't available, and that's actually the only lockdown that this trio had, but... They still end up losing a lot there, considering... I mean, what'd they get? They got a kill on the Treant. They got maybe some chip damage on a tier 1, but... I mean, no offense to the Treant Protector, but who cares? He's back up. Living Armor's still a thing. I mean, DogChamp take that every time.
No, it's an incredibly simple trade. No damage really gets the stick onto that tower. It was already a push-in with 3 heroes, not during a cart timing, so it already feels weird. And I am just wondering what this OD is going to have to do to get back in this game. I almost hope he goes a recovery Midas at this point, just because there really isn't a light at the end of the tunnel right now. He's level 6. He's got 5 deaths. His TP's on cooldown because he just TP'd top to make that play happen. And sure, you got to kill a Treant Protector, but your opponents are just lining your pockets. The 2 players who are having a good game on Fart Studios right now are the Slark, and I hesitate to say the Tiny, just because Jenkins hasn't really died in this game all too much, and he's got a good chunk, but he's going to need a lot more before he gets that Blink Dagger.
Yeah, you take a look at where his net worth stands. It's certainly not bad, 2,900, but not bad is maybe not enough in this instance, through no fault of his own, right? He's played this lane as well as I think you could have expected, and, well... It's just gonna be a rough one for Fart Studios. The problem, ET, is that we said that in Game 1. We talked about the team fight strength. That would be maybe be their ticket back into the game, and DogChamp simply never allowed them to have those opportunities in the first place, and they seem like they're in a pretty damn good position to do something similar here.
Yeah, and I think with this game, the big plus is that instead of waiting for a lot of their own heroes to come online, they just have good matchups. They need items, is what they need in this game. They need the Blink Dagger, they need the Echo Saber and the Axe on the Slark. They need those things, and then the heroes should just work themselves, honestly. It's where they have Odie versus Timbersaw, a horrible matchup for Timbersaw. They have Slark versus Timbersaw, a matchup that the Slark eventually wins. It's where, really, it doesn't take a lot for them to win this game. It's just for the next 10 minutes or so, DogChamp should just be winning, and it's a matter of how Fart Studios can actually deal with that aggression, because DogChamp should start to walk all over you. This is where those towers start to roll. It's where that mid-game really starts to begin, and then all you can do is deal with the aggression, and then wait and hope your heroes are just better than your opponents.
Meantime, we are waiting to get the game back on our way in general here. Still have the pause. Everyone, though, has reconnected. So I believe we already got the go-ahead from at least the Fart Studios side. So waiting to see if DogChamp are ready to resume as well. Apparently RCY, okay, I did not see that he was disconnected in the first place. My bad. That explains why they hadn't been ready to go just yet.
No, it was funny in the play top. It looked like he was it looked like he disconnected, and then he did disconnect, and I was like, oh, okay. Good thing they couldn't do anything to actually stop the Tiny's TP. As you can see, his chains are even still on CD. But okay, here we go. Game still underway, and still quite the mountain that Fart Studios need to climb.
Yeah, 4K down, pre-10 minutes. Not a fun time for them, but well, that's simultaneously the good and the bad news, right? You're down 4K pre-10 minutes. That's pretty awful, but you're hard-pressed to be any further behind, right? You're kind of at rock bottom, nowhere to go but up if you're looking for positives. Let's see how this one plays, though, because Sonic is in a bit of a rough spot here. He's going to look for the D award. He's able to get it. The problem is he's going to walk right into the crosshairs of RCY. Just waiting for another slight. There it is. He was able to take the Oswald out at least, so he does get something that's going to make that area slightly safer for his cores, but RCY just continues to go after just unbelievable amounts of kills. 7-0-5 now in terms of the stat line. Don't know if he's going to be slowing down anytime soon either.
Yeah, it's where I'm kind of looking over at Jenkins, seeing if he got lucky. Did not get lucky with the tumbler toy, or at least not yet. So we'll have to see if maybe he can pick that up. But RCY did get lucky. He's got the Lance of Pursuit on Ember Spirit. He will continue to be annoying. And okay, they're going to juggle him back, but he is Ember Spirit, and yeah. Well, that's how that goes.
Good coordination. Well, you know, we'll give him that on the Fart Studios side, but yeah, that's one of the few heroes that combo just doesn't really work against. And RCY drops a Remnant, TP's home. He'll come back with full HP and mana, and ET, the question I have at this point, if you're RCY, how much are you looking now to move actually outside of playing mid? Because he's still living in this area, not looking to make too many heavy rotations. Do you think he needs to right now, or is he good where he is? Although, as I say that, they just got to kill him with Slark, so you'd think he's doing just fine, and he is looking for kills mid. They're able to take down one. They'll get the second as well. Giant picks up both, and RCY jumps away.
Oh, and it's so unfortunate. He's just a step behind on the Bane. He was looking for a play to make with his ulti, as we talked before in the draft, but everything just kind of collapses at all the same time. They get the kill onto the Slark bottom. They get the Shadow Fiend there to make sure the tower goes down pretty darn quickly, and then they still are just looking for that level 6 on the Magnus, slowly but surely. And okay, TPing back mid, Nusham, and there's the grip. They need to kill this guy.
Annihilate taking no chances, drops the Sanity's Eclipse just to make sure. Can't really blame him at that point. They're able to find the big kill, and did Yuma actually? No, he did not actually finish the channel. Now Nusham hits him up with the RP, but since they use the skewer, they don't really have any means of pulling him back, and yeah, it felt greedy, ET, because it was greedy, and now they're going to pay for it.
Ooh.
Oh, hold up. Okay. Jenkins says pay for this. He's able to pick up one extra onto Italiano, and that's going to make that largely worthwhile.
Yeah, I got a little bit ahead of himself, and you know, all Timbersaw players think they're invincible until they get killed like that. But without a hood, and yeah, just immediately queues up a hood. Even had his Sanj in his stash. Okay, greed punished. Blink dagger narrowing in on it for Jenkins. You know, it's all of the little numbers. Everything's gonna start to add up. And of course, once he does have that blink dagger, that basically just fast forward that timing a good 3 or 4 minutes. That's pretty wild.
Just gotta be careful at this point. Still a little ways to go, so Jenkins can't afford to get too crazy at this point, but they're eyeballing RCY here. They didn't really have the Fiend's Grip, so I think that was just more of a scare tactic than anything else, but it works. RCY, as big as he is, still has to show some respect to to that trio, and since he doesn't, he might be in some trouble here. Now, Remnant's out, jumps away. Yeah, going on Ember. Not really much you can do without Fiend's Grip.
Yeah, that's the darndest thing. And of course, as soon as Fiend's Grip is back up, there does need to be that level of respect gifted over to Fart Studios. But at the same time, Fart Studios are also not getting onto any of these buildings. They're not getting their next play going. And understandably so. Overgrowth is always there to kind of give you that threat. The Ember, if you're not starting onto him, makes it almost impossible to team fight as well. Just a very obnoxious team fight to go into while they're still, again, waiting for this Blink Dagger. As Italiano says,
Whoa.
I'll break the silence. I'm going in.
All the way in. Nice bit of damage onto BSJ to start. There's going to be the global, though, so they do need to back this up, but this is a problem. Annihilate's already dead. BSJ running through the trees, but your ult doesn't do any good against the actual damage on the ground, and Jenkins is still trying to make something happen. They get the toss back onto B9. He's able to drop the overgrowth. It doesn't save him, but it gets his teammates in. Nosham taken down first. Jenkins should go down here as well. Timber Chain finishes the job, and now Sonic. How well can you dance your way out? Doesn't have to. Italiano decides, let's not overextend for a Bane kill. We already got 4, and DogChamp with another clear-cut win.
Well, what can you do?
Yeah, even going to be able to farm this nice little triple stack. I think as soon as RCY detaches himself to go back towards mid, just because he had a remnant there, yeah, it's time to go. You know, don't want to get caught on any of these nasty hero respawns, even though I Annihilate back mid. Just immediately TPs out onto the map, gets hit with the Veil, gets hit with the Searing Chains. RCY, this is that dangerous moment. There's no global to get you out now if you do get gripped. This is where Fart Studios are desperately going to look for a play with the Bane. And while this isn't the play that you necessarily wanted, but you'll take a free silencer, and with that, Blink Dagger is done. And RCY, ooh.
That's very aggressive, but he does get Sonic. Oh. Well, I mean, Bane dead, so now he doesn't have anything to worry about. Without the Fiend's Grip, they... I guess technically there's still an astral play if they time it perfectly, but the likelihood of that play happening is very, very low. Although they are trying to force something here. Jenkins goes in, they preemptively RP, but there's Yuma. Able to drop down the Requiem that pushes everyone away, and that buys the time they needed.
So they walk that one out. Pike is now finished on Yuma as well, so he is incredibly not scared of the Slark. He is absolutely fine to just sit and stand his ground in most of these situations. And even though they don't have a hero like the Beastmaster, which they could most certainly just immediately force the Roche, they are already looking to scoop up these tier 2s as I Annihilate. Stop. Oh, he ashelled a creep. The poor guy. It's the slowest kill in the world, but it is a kill nonetheless. He is dead 4 times over. There's so many things that could kill him in that situation.
Just unfortunate, doesn't even really begin to describe it, but 2 and 8, he is working his way towards a BKB, so if he can pick that up, maybe that solves some of those problems. But speaking of problems, they've got other ones. The global's going to come out. There's going to be the root out from B9 as well, but BSJ isn't dead yet. He's able to walk himself away. Fiend's Grip from Sonic, unfortunately for him, has to be used defensively, but it did the job. It gets the Slark out, and well, I think that's got to be considered a silver lining for them, considering how much they could have lost.
Oh, and look this. Yuma.
Okay. Force staffs himself up. Okay, Sanity's Eclipse dropped. Yuma is not really that low just yet, though, and yeah, this is a bit of a problem.
No.
I Annihilate dies instead. Yuma, they finally get him. Okay. They had to finish that kill. There's just no way that they let him get away with that. But now, since BSJ made his way over, they're going to try to punish him. 2 seconds for the pounce. But Italiano trying to stay in front of him. Doesn't block every angle, though, and looks like Slark's making it back into base, or maybe not. RCY is going to come forward. Do they get the root? Yes, they do. And he's dead inside of his own base, ET.
Dude, RCY is just walking around like he owns the place. Just takes a side trip there, you know, past the tier 3. I mean, it's just unfortunate. And that kill onto Yuma would have been so clean if only they had RP, but again, one of the drawbacks of these long CDs, you just don't have it at every moment, even though the moment presented itself, where they got 3 heroes trapped top with their TPs. Sure, you lose a hero, but that was their play. It's just
Sonic,
not enough
no.
for it to go cleanly.
Sonic,
Yeah, Sonic.
run!
And 2 hits. Ooh.
So a
4
little
hits.
sturdier than we anticipated, but not by enough to actually let him live, obviously. But I don't know. I mean, you know, you force the rune usage, I suppose, but now you don't have him to try and contest Roshan, and This one should go pretty quickly and pretty easily to DogChamp. Jenkins, though, looking for a pick. They get the Avatos, they get the Skewer back. B9 did still get off the Overgrowth, though, and here comes RCY. He is very angry, and he is looking for kills, but they do put him under. That means most of the lineup is able to retreat. Jenkins, however, not included in that group. So they do still have to lose the Tiny ET, and that doesn't do anything to stop the Roche attempt, but... Oh, there really is no but, actually, now that I think about it. B9 didn't even go down.
Yeah, no. He's completely fine. Back into the pit. Giant starts tanking a little bit for his teammate. Yeah, make sure this goes as quick as you can really expect. Leech Seed makes it even cleaner. And first Aegis of the game, 19 minutes, right on cue as what they did in game 1. Just hitting every single beat. Just not too much for Fart Studios to contest with. They got a Diffusal Blade finished up on the Slark to try and keep them in this game, but that still doesn't fix the problem that is this OD that just is losing, just doesn't have a soul in this game, and he's gonna just slowly die. Great Avatos, and
RP to follow. Where's the damage? They need a little bit more, though. They do get B9. Giant will fall as well, but RCY got away. Take what you can get, I guess.
Yeah, that's pretty much all you can say. Unfortunately now, again, they don't have the RP to defend any of their tier 2s now, so it's up to DogChamp to just make that decisive choice to then go onto one of those buildings. But again, Fart Studios have a smoke. They have a situation in which Global has used. You know that Global is used. At least some form of grip should be able to succeed. It's where they would love to find RCY. They get RCY. That would be perfect. You know, mid lane, well, he's trying to make the play happen, and he's burning a lot of mana, but nope, can't connect. There's the grip, though.
Grip onto Italiano. You got the Chakram out first, however, so BSJ doesn't really get to be part of this fight for a few more seconds at least. But RCY, that is a very aggressive play to make, but he knows his teammates are behind him. They're just going to wipe 3. RCY does eventually die to the Astral Imprisonment, but he's okay with that trade-off. Gold-wise, it's relatively even, but DogChamp can now push onto the tower. They can take definitive control of this map because Yuma is pushing out the bottom lane as well.
Yeah, didn't blink at that team fight. Didn't have TP either, so you know, stroke of fate, they just get immediately back onto that tier 2 bottom. But now you have this issue where you have to survive versus this double chakram build from Italiano. It's so obnoxious. He just doesn't die really anymore. And the OD, who wants to walk up to him and just beat him to death with Arcane Orb, can't even do that. Aina is just not surviving long enough in these fights to play OD. There's just too much damage out in front of him. And even playing just versus the Silencer is just too obnoxious. At least that's all going to change once this BKB's done, and it's done in 40 gold or so. But this next team fight has to go well, because even though you still have Glyph, tier 3s, that's next up for this Aegis. This final tier 2 top is probably going to be the easier objective, but this is where Fart Studios, with this next RP, with these next little item timings, they got to make something happen now.
And there's the BKB finished, as you were sort of pointing out there. So this is not where you want to use it, though. Running into Italiano, but everyone's able to just kind of walk away. Over in the middle lane, though, Jenkins is in some trouble, and Jenkins, you can't afford to really lose him. He's been the guy actually making the plays, and he's down for 40 now. So that is a pretty sizable problem, because the Tinies blink in has really been the linchpin for any positive plays that Fart Studios have put together so far.
Yeah, it's also where Nusham is going to have to step up a little bit more here. I think they've been doing a lot of follow-up play. Really, it's been the Avatos to go, and if the Avatos lands, then we RP on top of it. But once there are items like the BKBs, or I guess not even the BKB, Yuma just has a straight-up Manta to try and Manta dodge RP, which is, well, we'll see how that one goes. But until then, you still have to see them, I think, land on 2 different targets. They can't afford to really stack their spells like they have been, unless they're guaranteeing a core kill as RCY, and he's out. The Ags.
That's not okay. That's just gross. And now Sonic is potentially getting picked off as well. Defensive Nightmare. But he Nightmared under... Well, technically when he Nightmared, the Chakrams weren't under him, but that doesn't really matter. As I Annihilate, you need to get the hell out of there. BKB popped. He's going to try to make his way back, but he's so slow, he may not actually make it. The right clicks take him down, ET. And look at the buybacks. They're just forcing them all out. There's going to be the RP, pulling someone in. They do get one onto the Ember. Big kill for them, but the cost is monumental. They are starting to regroup around their fountain, though. Italiano was put under by the Fiend's grip. Yuma? Okay. Weird spot to potentially use that Aegis, but he is able to walk away without without losing it, and Jenkins wants to go in again. I thought they were going to leave this alone, but he's able to get a pretty big one onto B9. That burns the Aegis as well, and they're going to set up onto him a second time. They get to skewer back. Yuma, though, channeling the Requiem. He is going to let it fly here, connecting onto 3. But does he have any backup? The Nightmare's keeping Italiano Gangster out of the fight, so Yuma kind of has to do this by himself. He's not doing a bad job of it so far. Popping the Mask of Madness, trying to heal up, getting some damage onto BSJ as well, and now Italiano comes back over. B9 wraps around from the back line as Sonic is not in as much danger as I thought he would be. And they're going to try to turn this, getting onto B9, but the Overgrowth is going to be there, resets the fight. BSJ gets taken down. I Annihilate in trouble as well. They all bought back for this ET. They can't afford to go down, but they don't really have much of a choice anymore.
Oh no, and the Tiny as well. Oh, he's trying to survive. He's gonna get not rooted again, so they will have to work for this kill, but I think this is kind of the victory lap right now. Italian Gangster's chasing Sonic in his own fountain. Jenkins is on the lam. He got his TP canceled, and they know this, so the Tiny really doesn't have the best escape route, and RCY is certainly going to make this a much easier chase, as the rest of the team is up on the tier 3s. They know the diebacks happened. 10 seconds left for Sark and OD, which is kind of shocking because their respawn timers are just so low, but it goes back to just them not having that much net worth. There are too many levels. Just not the best game for anyone here. DogChamp even giving them the respect. Even with 2 heroes dead, they're going to let their lineup get back to their full strength.
Just a little unfortunate, disappointing, I guess we would say, because Fart Studios on the initial round of buybacks, well, hold on, never mind. They're in some trouble. RCY says, let me into your base. I would like a kill. Gets one for free onto Sonic. And Annihilate has to fall back, but they bought back. They found some big kills. They skewered RCY into their own fountain and killed him. It's just after that, they greed out. They go so far out of their own base after, and that really kind of screws them over. This is going to screw them over as well. That's a decent initiation from Nusham, but the Global Silence counters it all.
Yeah, and, well, yet again, no global. Now Magnus and Bane can play, but it just seems a little too late here, as I think most of their buildings are about to get tumbled over. There's now a full butterfly on Yuma, and no MKBs on site for anyone. OD already hates the play versus evasion, and now the SF is just even more of a threat. Quite literally, I think the play is to get them into the fountain at this stage whenever they go for tier 4s, but I don't know how they fight over any of these outer barracks. It's just too far. They need the fountain damage. They just don't do enough. At least the Sark has a BKB, so maybe he'll spend at least some time in this next team fight on a hero, but it just feels like if they can't get that backline, if they can't get the tree and the silencer, that happens.
BSJ loses 75% of his health right from the start.
Now they're chasing. Now that their BKBs are gone, it's time to go.
Requiem is only going to hit Jenkins. Well, that's a problem. He's just straight up dead. RCY, meanwhile, ignores the fight, jumps the backline. That's BSJ down. Sonic should fall here as well. And, well, if you remember, buybacks not really available. They used all the ones they had the last time around. That's a hell of an RP, though, but there's no skewer. Oh, Nusham. I mean, he does everything he can there. It's just the silence is just too good. And there's your GG, DogChamp. I mean, we said they looked dominant in Game 1 ET. They looked even better here in Game 2.
No, they looked absolutely incredible. Felt good to watch, too. RCY is absolutely disgusting, and really, the only one I'm really sad for in this game is I Annihilate. Poor guy. Game 1, you know, sure, whatever, you know, RCY, young gun, he's kind of owning on Invoker. Game 2, though, not only do you get soul killed, then you get dual laned by a silencer in your lane that just never leaves because the Timbersaw is completely fine versus the Sark. He does not care. So your bottom lane isn't going too well. Your mid lane is going disastrously. And then maybe you get a cheeky kill or two onto the Shadow Fiend, but Yuma is still eclipsing everybody in net worth. Just no good way to win that game. No good way to look at that game either. And hey, they lasted 5 minutes longer than game 1. Yeah, it's not too many great things to say. But DogChamp, man, each core performance absolutely fantastic, and with the stand-in. So Giant wants to, you know, stick around. We'll see. You know, this B9 is kind of known for having his trial player runs, especially in BTS Pro Series. But if this is them with the stand-in, I'm terrified of what they're going to look like with Yaren.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, Yaren brings that similar kind of dependability that Giant was able to provide for them in this. So it's not even really going to be much of a transition if and when he returns. But that brings me to the number one thing here. The cores are going to steal the headlines because, Jesus, look at their numbers, right? But B9 and Giant, 64 combined assists, and not even the numbers for them, ET. They were the furthest heroes forward in a lot of those fights. Bloody Nine gets Avid, tossed, skewered back, and he just doesn't care. He says, okay, I'll just pop Overgrowth. I know my teammates are coming. And when your supports just don't have to panic in the slightest when a full combo's put onto them, there's no way that Fart Studios can overcome that.
Yeah, it's just too easy. And I think in draft, of course, they just went for first pick Treant Protector, but it also just became such a beautiful silencer game, and Fart Studios just picked everything into it. It's why they last second have to make the swap up with Newsham and Jenkins, because they know they need that more instantaneous reaction with the Tiny. But it also, I think, comes down to that mid lane where Odie versus Ember. Ember just won. RCY just kind of beasted out. And we're going to continue to see RCY beast out, I think, because the kid just does not want to get eliminated. He doesn't want to go anywhere. He wants to play Dota, and he loves to play Dota. I love to watch him play Dota.
Oh,
Great
yeah.
guy.
He is pretty damn good at what he does, all things considered. And we said the first time we saw him, right? Where did DogChamp sort of find the young man? They're not going to tell us, right? There's some sort of secret talent mine out there in Southeast Asia that DogChamp discovered and won't let anyone else know about. But RCY, impressive stuff. DogChamp obviously starting this Pro Series run about as well as you could have expected, right? I think they were the favorites coming into this matchup. I don't know if you'd be able to find too many people who would argue against that, but living up to those expectations in such strong fashion really does have to go a long way for them.
No, and we'll have to see, because of course, not qualified yet. Got to win
That is
another
true.
game. You've only gotten onto that next stage, but certainly a standout match for them. And I think for Fart Studios, time to go back to basics a little bit here, because it did not look pretty, did not feel pretty. It's where I don't think they want that early exit. And of course, they're going to be playing in Div 2. So you don't want this to be a prelude to the season that you're also going to have to play. I think that's where Fart Studios maybe need to kick it up to another gear. Otherwise, this is not going to be a pretty few months for them.
Yeah. They've got some stuff to work on. But for now, that is our first and only series of the day concluded. Congratulations to DogChamp. They move on to the next round here in Phase 1, and that does give us an opportunity to pull up that bracket for you. You can see that on your screen right now. DogChamp got the win, and it also gives us time to explain a little quirk of the schedule that, honestly, I probably should have told you about at the start of the broadcast. My bad. We got sort of caught up in the Dota, first time back doing the Pro Series. So apologies, but we'll explain now. That series you see up at the top, Wildcard versus Dreamers, was supposed to be played today. Obviously, it wasn't, but DPC kind of takes precedence over pretty much everything. Schedule wasn't really working out, so that game is going to be played tomorrow. I believe, in fact, it is going to be broadcasted simultaneously with our second series tomorrow evening as well. The exact schedule is probably up on the BTS Dota account if you want to check that out, or might be on Wikipedia as well. But that's the reason why we had both the late start and only one series here to play. So that is what the bracket looks like on this side. Do want to take 1 second, though, to show you the other side of this bracket, because that is what we're going to be focusing in on tomorrow. We've got ET, honestly, mostly South American squads. Ravens versus No Runes will be our first matchup. We'll follow that up with Infamous versus Alpha. So not 100% SA with Alpha being thrown into the mix there, but our first look at some of the South American squads here in this Pro Series.
Yeah, and speaking of Dota, if you want to go watch Alpha play right now, I think they just lost game 1 versus Wildcard, but there is Dota going on, and if you were really gunning to see those teams that unfortunately weren't playing in our 20 tonight, well, they are playing right now. They're live, so don't miss them if that's what you were really gunning for tonight. So don't worry, Dota eventually got played.
Yeah, wild card are in action somewhere in the world, right? But yeah, as I said, DPC kind of takes precedence, understandable for wild card there. So you want to check that out, obviously go check that out because we are done and dusted here. The one series in the books. So we are going to be heading out here. We will be back tomorrow afternoon. We will have that earlier start time. It's going to be 3 p.m. Pacific time, ET. I have forgotten the schedule suddenly, but I
I'm
believe
nodding.
that is
I'm nodding.
correct. Thank you. 3 p.m. Pacific will be the start time there. We'll have a couple of best of threes for you. So thank you all so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed the Dota. Hope you join us tomorrow as well. We wish you a fantastic rest of your night. Enjoy the start of your weekend.